It was a late night last night, Bloom.
Yeah, East Coast dads. Shout out to JJ. But you're a mountain dad.
I was gonna say East Coast, baby. Nah, up here in the mountains in Colorado. Rocky Mountain High. Am I right? Yeah.
Isn't the
You got a
Colorado?
team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football. I'm living in a fantasy. Football. Got everybody mad at me. Football. Cause every game I had to win. Football. I gotta be a champion. Football. I'm living in a fantasy.
We are here for you in the Week 11 Waiver Wire show. It is the Audible. It's Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom. We're talking about your team, Bloom. I hope your
Yeah.
teams are doing well.
A few. You know, it's okay. It's okay. I consider it. Fantasy football has always been very good to me, no matter how my teams do. And let's just say that I was a little overweight on Nick Chubb this year.
Okay, yeah, it happens. And when you need help, then we are here for you with the Week 11 Waiver Wire. We've got our injury rounds. Adam Hutchison from footballguys.com. We want you to check that out. And we start with quarterbacks, and we've got a few, including Baker the Baby Maker, thumb injury, projected Week 12 return, Taylor Heineke, hamstring, projecting Week 13 return, Derek Carr, concussion, projecting Week 12 return. You've got some well-timed buys. Deshaun Watson, by the way, ankle injury, timeline TBD. Can't we just say that about Deshaun for everything? Right. Like shoulder, ankle, whatever, to be determined. How does he feel? But I know how people feel about Josh Dobbs sitting here at the top of your list. Sigmund Bloom. Josh Dobbs is worth 25 to 50% this week.
And 25 to 50% indicates, hey, we're going into week 11. So what are you waiting for? You know, Josh Dobbs with the rushing ability in a good offense, a better offense than Arizona's offense, at least. And Justin Jefferson should be back this week. If not this week, then next week. So all of these things add up to something very good. And going up against a suddenly scary Denver defense, I don't know. Vance Joseph, he really is back, actually. So even if you don't need Joshua Dobbs, you might need him. You might end up needing him, depending on injuries that happen, and you might deprive one of your opponents who needs him. Quarterback has made a little comeback in scoring the last few weeks. Josh Dobbs part of that, but I do think if he's out there, whether you need him or not, probably one of the best waiver pickups for the rest of the season.
Yeah, there we go. To the other quarterbacks on your list, upgrades, downgrades, and waiver wire report available at footballguys.com. There is Matthew Stafford at 7 to 15%. Expected to play in week 11 with that thumb still maybe bothering. We'll put a pin in that, Bloom. And, well, let's just talk about Stafford, and then we got some guys after him.
Yeah, Stafford had 334 passing, no touchdowns. Kyron Williams had 2 touchdowns in the first matchup with Seattle, and we'll see. He didn't have Cooper Kupp in that matchup. Of course, Seattle didn't have Devin Witherspoon. At the very least, Matthew Stafford, if the thumb is okay, if they're not rushing him back out there to avoid playing Carson Wentz, then Stafford is at least by injury emergency insurance. And again, I think this is another moment to emphasize that. You may look at your roster right now. You might feel that you're strong at certain positions or you don't need a player like Stafford. Give it a few weeks. Things happen, including him coming back to play Seattle this week.
Yeah, things change quickly around here. It's what Joe always says, and it is the truth. Jordan Love at 3 to 5%. And then a couple of lower percentage guys. Just a percentage for Jameis Winston. And week 11 bye. So Carr's got time to get healthy. And then Desmond Ridder, 0.5%, whatever. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, this is, again, a sign that, hey, there's not much out there if Jordan Love is one of the top 3 pickups. And he was making some really nice throws downfield. He was also dealing with the Steelers' pass rush. Maybe this is more of an endorsement of playing a quarterback against the Steelers, Deshaun Watson, this week if he's okay. But actually, Love is a better play this week than Watson because he plays the Los Angeles Chargers. And we're going to give a lot of credit to the Lions offense. But I do think this is a very beatable Chargers defense. And then we're just watching potential new starters coming out of the bye, Desmond Ridder. And look, right now, Arthur Smith's not saying who's going to start. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to keep you in suspense. That tells me he may be open to putting Desmond Ridder back in there. At least Desmond Ridder changed Hand, Cease, you carried on the outside, the sideline. Hand when you're going into the end zone. He did it in the go-ahead touchdown. Maybe that's enough to give him another chance. And he does score on the ground and add some points on the ground. So after the bye in 2 quarterback superflex leagues, he could be worth something. And Jameis Winston, they're optimistic that Derek Carr is going to be back, but let's wait and see. I'd say why not go with Taysom Hill at quarterback, or at least a bigger dose of Taysom Hill at quarterback, no matter who starts, as the Saints are trying to hang on to the lead in the NFC South.
Let's get to the running back position, and we've got to go running back injury rounds. Again, the injury rounds are available at footballguys.com. Adam Hutchinson does that great work for us. For Ramondre Stevenson, back injury on my neck and my back. Projecting week 12 return. Back spasms, not exactly what you want to hear about. Alexander Madison, concussion, projecting week 12 return. We'll get to the conversation surrounding Minnesota's backfield now with more of the guys the Rams were supposed to use. But that's spoiler alert coming up. Let's get to your running backs, Bloom. At the top, 2 of them, Devin Singletary. Yeah, it happened finally. But can it repeat? Your window with Singletary might have been a week and you missed it. But if not, 50 to 100%. Keaton Mitchell, 50 to 100% for both of these two.
Yeah, with Singletary, Cease. We all liked Singletary coming into the league. If we had a prop bet when he was drafted that he would have a 30 carry game in the NFL, I think that we would have all lost that bet because, well, the Texans finally gave this undersized back who still is very good after contact and through contact. Finally, this running game comes alive. Dameon Pierce may or may not be back against Arizona, a good matchup against the run. Singletary is at least in your lineup as a running back 2 flex. I think it's got to be his backfield going forward. It's not necessarily Keaton Mitchell's backfield. Gus Edwards isn't going away. Justice Hill isn't going away. But the team themselves, Harbaugh said, we got to use him more. I don't know why he wasn't used as much. He was coming into the week questionable with a hamstring injury. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but they're not indicating it did. So we expect on a Thursday more Keaton Mitchell. We have already seen that he does not need very many touches to have a fantasy impact. And again, Cease, I want to use this opportunity to say I'm excited about an NFL where Devin Achane can be a league winner, where Keaton Mitchell can be one of the biggest waiver wire pickups of the year, where Jaleel McLaughlin, well, he can be a backup to Javonte Williams.
Yeah, and maybe not even that. Let's get to the further running backs. Oh, shut him down is going to be so massive today. Ty Chandler is there, Bloom, but I do want to bring up the fact that, well, okay, Chandler, he's got the speed, North Carolina guy, right? Behind Javonte, behind Michael Carter. Then he got his chance to be the man. And, well, now you have Myles Gaskin there as well. Okay, and Chandler, although I appreciate his game, saw him at the Shrine game years ago, certainly got that speed. I just have a feeling that it might be Chandler and Gaskin. You have Gaskin on the list. I'm looking a little bit later. Yeah,
0.5%.
Let's talk about those two before we jump into the rest.
Yeah, and I think Chandler's the pickup just because, again, in 20, 25, 40, 50%, a sizable amount because they were already rotating him in with Madison before Madison had the concussion. Arguably, Madison has gotten enough opportunities. It's time for somebody else to get an opportunity. It might be Myles Gaskin, who they bring back, who's a solid running back in his own right. And I think that we just see this as fluid. And again, against a background against the Vikings offense, when Kirk Cousins goes down, we're like, oh, is Justin Jefferson even going to come back? Is this team even going to be, they're going to cruise into a top 5 pick and get there? No, they're a playoff contender with Joshua Dobbs. They're a good offense getting Justin Jefferson back. So we're more interested in the running game here. Ty Chandler scoring on the direct snap touchdown. Again, I believe that's before Madison leaves with the concussion. So we give him the edge, but I think you're right, Cease, to bring up Myles Gaskin and just, again, emphasize how fluid these situations can be.
Yeah, definitely a situation to monitor and to watch. Chandler's got the talent. It's just Gaskin's got that experience, and I won't get into it, Bloom, but, he could have done more with the Rams. Let's just leave that alone, and we'll talk about it later. Off air, Rico Dowdle is there. Fantasy Jam scrambling. Do I have Rico Suave on my roster? 15 to 30% for him. Zach Charbonnet, Why is Zach Charbonnet even out there? Anyway, 15 to 30% for him. There's Jet McKinnon at 10 to 20%. Let's get that trio out the way.
Yeah, and with Dowdle, it still was mostly garbage time, but he looked pretty good. Tony Pollard just can't get the engine to turn over, can't put those explosive plays together. I wonder if Dallas would consider more Dowdle, or at least Dowdle at the goal line. Pollard stopped at 4th down at the goal line to open up that game against the Giants. I don't think Dowdle's going to take over, but this offense is the hottest offense in the league right now, and you want to have players attached to it. Seattle's offense with Charbonnet 3 weeks in a row, more snaps than Kenneth Walker, although Kenneth Walker still getting a lot more touches. It's more of an injury upside stash, although I think that Charbonnet is getting good gains, and as he's on the field more, he could pop one of these weeks. And again, just to comment on the nature of this list, we're wide netting it. I look at the Yahoo public leagues. If a player's owned in 60%, carried in 60% or less, I'll include them just in case, because we use this in our app to advise people on pickups. That last Jerick McKinnon, this is due diligence. This is being thorough, right? Jerick McKinnon, we saw early on that they're not going to use him more than about 1/3 of the snaps. And they're saving him, right? They're saving him for December. They're saving him for January. This is a tighter AFC than we expected, and you wonder, will we see more McKinnon when we have must-win games to lock up the number 1 seed, to lock up home field advantage? I think coming out of the bye now, this is the time to at least keep him safely on your bench, and if he continues to just get a touchdown here and there, 3, 4, 5 touches a game, about 1/3 of the snaps, then he's harmless. But if he's out there and he's not on your roster, he could hurt you in the playoffs.
He could. And oh boy, what else could you look for on your waiver wire? Some transitions are better than others. There's Zeke, 5 to 10% for Zeke Elliott. Okay. Latavius Murray as a 1 to 3%er here on this list, Sigmund. Those two veterans, and I'm going to throw in a half pence, 6 pence, something for Samaj P. Ryan. I'll save it for our portion with the wonderful Chuck D, the Magical Bird Show. I'll save that, but yeah, I'll throw 0.5% for P. Ryan.
Yeah, I think that, let's just say this about Denver, that they're changing. I mean, they're changing because the game scripts are changing, or at least different parts of their offense may become less important, more important, more in depth later. Ezekiel Elliott's tough because he's going into his bye. And in general, one of the cardinal rules of waiver wire pickups is it is very difficult to want to carry a player through their bye. And certainly to pick up a player who's going on bye, chances are you're more thinking about dropping a player because he's going on a bye, because a player's value can't improve really during their bye. So you want somebody who can increase their value either via injury to somebody ahead of them on the depth chart, or perhaps a good performance. But what we saw against the Colts, first of all, Zeke looks good. Zeke looks better than he did last year. Zeke looks renewed, not like prime Zeke, but better than the Zeke that we thought was washed up and that the league might have thought was washed up for how long he was out there as a free agent. And then we have Ramondre Stevenson with the back issues getting stretched out on the sidelines. Now, the bye week is going to allow Stevenson to rest, but that can always pop back up. And Zeke is a player that if he was the starter for this team, we would want to trust in our lineup. So he's an injury upside backup, and the injury seal has been broken on the player that's playing ahead of him. And he's even a what the heck flex with the Patriots. Well, they're not going to be passing the ball a lot. Latavius Murray, with James Cook fumbling early, comes in. Murray looks as good as he's looked for months, and he scores a touchdown, probably holding off Leonard Fournette for now. An injury upside play behind James Cook if Cook continues to have ball security problems. Maybe he doesn't even need an injury. I'm getting all. It's because
I'll park on us.
Respect my authority. I'm above the law. We gotta. It's week 11, Cease. We gotta do something to keep it spicy. But yeah, we'll see about Latavius Murray. We'll see about the Bills. Ooh, there's a story for you coming out of week 10. And I think that, again, we watch these veteran backs, Murray, Elliott, and that's another thing that coaches like at this time of year is the certainty that a player is going to be assignment sound in the backfield.
That's correct. I remember Nick Ferguson was always getting mad at me because he thought my impression of him sounded like Cartman. Cecil, Russell Wilson is not a dog, Cecil. Like, no, that's not Cartman. Anyway, by the way,
Nick
Philip should
Ferguson.
go. He should go to Primanti's, right? Isn't that the
Well,
thing?
yeah. Well,
Go
Primanti's is
get
kind of
yourself
like,
a Roethlisberger, baby. Get your
it's good.
Roethlisberger.
It's good. Someone in the chat room was asking, Pittsburgh, I don't have a lot of connect. I can tell you what to do in Washington County in like the 80s and early 90s. But Primanti Brothers is the old trucker stop where they put the coleslaw and the fries on the sandwich. I would say you go to the location on the south side, just so you can walk along Carson Avenue there and check out everything that's cool on the south side of Pittsburgh. But that's, that being said, like when people come to New Orleans, I say, well, yeah, go to Cafe Du Monde. Do what like you and I did, Cease. Go to Cafe Du Monde, get some beignets,
Yeah.
get a
Go
Cafe
sing at
Au
the
lait, go to
go
Pat
sing at Piano
O'Brien's,
Bar. Yeah, Pat
get a
O'Brien.
Hurricane. Like start there and people watch. Because when you're not watching the NFL, people watching in New Orleans is probably the next best thing.
I should post that. I'd have to find it. But was it video or audio? I remembered recording us singing Billy Joel at Pat O'Brien's.
Yeah.
So
come on back down. We got a date in a little over a year for the Super Bowl, right?
I know, of course. Fantastic. Jimno wants to know about the old song with the Tecmo Bowl. Listen to the audio version. Listen to audio. I have 2 different intros for the show. So yeah, and one of them definitely has a round football's back. Fantasy football's back. Yeah. Shout out. Underrated. Underrated is a good chopper like Gene Bramall is a good doctor. And that's the final bit of rap that I will do today. As everyone's disgusted, Bloom, let's talk about your wide receivers who might be disgusting your fantasy team, and you're going to need some help. But first, we got to go over the injury rounds. Adam Hutchison, footballguys.com. Keenan Allen, shoulder injury, projecting week 11 return. Just put a pin in it. Let's watch it and see what that situation's like. Michael Thomas has enough problems, but knee injury now. Timeline to be determined. Then Garrett Wilson with the right elbow injury, projecting a week 11 return. So again, check out that newswire at footballguys.com. And we'll keep you up to date on all these injuries as the injury report rolls in. And I am so happy, Bloom, to be talking about Noah Brown, because when you see the talent and the physical stuff is easy to see. Usually I reference that when I'm talking about quarterbacks because it's something Scott McLuhan told me years ago. Like, yeah, the physical, he's got a big arm, whatever. But with Brown, we always knew physically just how gifted he was. Big, fast, physical. Like, yes. And to see him put it together, to see him to be unstoppable, everyone's feeding off CJ Stroud. You can get a piece of that with Noah Brown this week.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the things you have to remember is just getting attached to a hot quarterback. And you also wonder, Cease, Ohio State, we would talk about Ohio State quarterbacks, Ohio State wide receivers. We're going to have another Ohio State wide receiver at the top of the draft next year. But we often talk about guys that were backups to players who are just impossible to get off the field. That's been the Ohio State wide receivers for a while. Noah Brown maybe not having a chance to shine, but having a chance to shine now. And we'll see about Nico Collins in the calf. But I think even when Nico Collins is out there, Noah Brown has done enough to at least be a player to have on your bench as a buy injury emergency insurance play. But again, it just gives us a chance to talk about CJ Stroud. And again, you mentioned Scott McLuhan. That's a big name. Certainly in terms of personnel and football philosophy and team building philosophy. Why is CJ Stroud succeeding? Is it something easy to scout? Is it something easy to measure? No, but that's why we love this, because it always keeps us surprised and really open to anything if we're being honest.
Yeah, let's make it happen. It's all about fit, man. Find the guy, find the fit, find Demario Douglas. Can he play quarterback? Are we talking about 7-11?
Cunningham can.
Well, Bill, I'm just saying, like, okay, see if they can make that happen. Demario Douglas is next on that list. We don't know yet if it's Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi. It doesn't matter. But 7-11 could help you 20 to 40% for him. Let's talk about Elijah Moore at 10 to 20%. Brandon Cooks, although maybe I'm pessimistic, Bloom. Yeah. But I always think when Cooks blows up, I'm like, yeah, good luck. He'll do that like 7
year.
weeks from now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like maybe twice a year. Maybe I'm more optimistic than I think. But like
Right.
the Brandon Cooks thing, like yeah, TLC baby, don't chase those waterfalls. And Josh Downs, 10 to 20%. That's much more exciting for me. Bloom. Let's talk about DeMario, Elijah, Brandon, and Josh.
Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls is a really sad song. Really
It is.
sad.
It is.
There's
Yeah.
there's an all-female brass band, the original Peanuts brass band, who does music by female artists, and they do a great brass band version of that song. And I'm with you on Brandon Cooks. Well, let's get Demario Douglas out of the way. Again, going into his bye, clearly the number one receiver. Whoever's throwing the ball, hopefully they can be a little more effective, and we could see Demario Douglas take the mantle from Adam Thielen as the struggle target. Elijah Moore gets a touchdown. First good week since week 3. And certainly this week going against the Steelers, assuming that Deshaun Watson's out there, you might see Moore get a lot of work in the short passing game like he has been whenever Deshaun Watson's actually healthy. Brandon Cooks, I'm with you. I kind of had to split it, right? I mean, Brandon Cooks had a week-winning week. I can't just leave him off of the waiver wire report, but I'm also not going to tell you to go strong to the hole for him. He is attached to Dak Prescott and is attached to the hottest pass offense in the league. Again, Brian Schottenheimer, Mike McCarthy, the hottest pass offense in the league. Bye-week adjustments. Okay. Josh Downs is an interesting guy here because he was going into the week with a knee issue. Apparently, it's a knee issue he's had all season. And he barely played until the fourth quarter, made a big play to help secure the win for the Colts, but now goes into his bye week. Now, he's still paddling upstream for fantasy value against an offense that's going to be a ton of Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is going to touch the ball 25, 30 times a week. And if you want to win, you really don't want Gardner Minshew throwing the ball more than 20 or 25 times a week. But Downs has the chance to be a big play downfield option when they're not going in the short passing game to Michael Pittman.
Okay, moving on to the wide receivers that we need to talk about. There he is.
Yeah.
I love him, and he's glorious. A.T. Perry, 5 to 10%. And check out his game. Again, reminded me of Tim Patrick. If you ever liked Tim Patrick, dynasty-wise, whatever, like, okay, then you are going to love A.T. Perry. Shrine Bowl, Bong Rip, Bloom. Let's talk about him.
Water pipe. Well, I guess you can probably say that now. How about the Saints? And it's not even just undrafted players. A.T. Perry was drafted, but at the same time, this player should have been drafted earlier, obviously. And you say Tim Patrick. Let's also talk about Michael Thomas. He has some things in common with Michael Thomas. And that's the player who has I believe the term was fairly significant injury going into the bye, a knee issue. So we may see Perry not season ending. I don't know if we're going to see injured reserve for Thomas or not. Marshawn Lattimore also banged up there with a fairly significant injury. But another interesting permutation here might be whether Carr can play, because what we saw was Jameis Winston throwing the ball, a real aspirational. It's a Jameis Winston throw. I'm being redundant if I say it was an aspirational throw. And A.T. Perry made the catch. It was one of those plays, you watch enough football and you see a play where the broadcast team is actually surprised by what happened. They're watching the game. They're like, wait, Perry came down with that for a touchdown? So he could be a really trusted target for Jameis Winston. And the Saints have a somewhat crowded passing game with Rashid Shaheed, with, of course, Chris Olave, with the host of tight ends that they have, Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. But Perry is one of those players who could really come on, again, depending on what happens with Thomas, depending on what happens with Winston. But put a pin in it, as you like to say, Cease, because we might be coming back to him after the bye.
We'll be back to that. Allie on bass. She's got to be in a band, right? Right? Okay. What's in the box? No, what's in the paper bag?
Oh,
should we just let people guess behind you? Let them guess. You don't have to tell us, baby. Just let them guess, right?
Everything is more boring than you think, but that's good because I should let your imagination. I know the house. We're cleaning the house, So, but it's good. I think that we for a while had different things on purpose rotating through so it's great. The interest, it makes me feel seen. I enjoy it.
I just want to see one of your cats jump out of the bag.
Yeah. Cat's out of the bag.
Oh, the cat is out of the bag. That's right. This is the Audible, footballguys.com. Wow. Tight end time, tight end talk. And, well, you are going to check out Football Guys for your injury news at the tight end position, and then your upgrades, downgrades, and waiver wire report is available at footballguys.com. I mean, McBride should already be picked up, right?
Yeah.
Tyler Conklin will be out there, so 5 to 10%. Do we literally only have one tight end to talk about?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it wasn't actually a very interesting week in terms of players showing that their value is changing for the positive at tight end. And we had a trend for a while there. It almost felt like there was more than 12 startable fantasy tight ends. K-Dot and 2 touchdowns. Taysom Hill had 3 great games in a row, and so on. All we have right now is Tyler Conklin. And what can Zach Wilson do? He can throw to Garrett Wilson. He can throw to Conklin, who's had 2 good alliteration games. I thought of you, Cease. I think he had 7 for 70 and 6 for 67 or something like that. Those are great at tight end. We'll take those at tight end, even a 5 for 50 or a 4 for 40. We'll take any of them. So I think that you could do worse. Kyle Pitts is on bye this week. So hopefully you're not even playing him anymore. But certainly that's how boring it is at tight end right now as we wait for some injured players to come back and we stick with the old reliables.
Stick with the old reliables. Bloom, can I get crazy on this morning show? Is that fine?
Oh, absolutely.
Can we do that?
It's 20. We just finished tight ends and we're 26:30.
Oh,
we have off the rails. I mean, this is a waiver wire show off the rails segment.
Stretch it out, baby. Stretch it out. I can't remember. I think I was watching like an Andrew Luck highlights or something, and I saw like Eric Swope make a play, and I was like, wow, man, I loved him. I love Lucas Kroll. If you couldn't tell last night on Twitter, the most important thing ever, Kroll was activated by the Broncos. He is almost a carbon copy of Greg Dulcich and what they want to do with Dulcich. And Dulcich was going to be a big part of what they wanted to do, whatever kind of plan that was, however flawed that was. And so when I saw Kroll activated and there was one play where he's wide open, Russ didn't see him. There was one target he got and some didn't come down with it. So you're going to look at the box score and you're going to see 1 target, no catches. Like, why is Lammey talking about this guy? Because Sean Payton wants to introduce more middle of the field concepts. Don't want to tell you what I saw at practice. Lucas Kroll, just like super crazy deep dynasty where you're excited about those guys like Eric Swope, right? We're excited about these tight ends no one ever hears from. Like, yes.
Travis Reyes.
Yeah, exactly. We all got our guy. Lucas Kroll may be my guy when it comes to that. Again, crazy deep dynasty. And just put a pin in it, man.
Yeah, I think that what's fascinating here, Cease, again, is in Sean Payton's first year. I mean, I can't say this is the vision he had. So have we seen the Sean Payton offense yet?
No.
So it's not quite that, but this is him figuring out the best mode for the roster he has. And yeah, there are going to be some players who may get opportunity strictly because of coach's preference, coach's decision. And yeah, we know who makes all the decisions in Denver.
Yeah, and it is the one, the only tyrant, Sean Payton. By the way, the Bills have fired Ken Dorsey.
Oh, really? Oh, yep. Well, that'll fix it.
Well, I really appreciate Sean McDermott like a lot, and I like Josh Allen. I wish he would focus more on football, but like something's got to give, and Dorsey's just not good. Can they get Daboll back? Probably not. But
yeah, well, right, everybody like to just go back to the way things were 2 years ago in that situation. But I do think Cease, we can never say, and you can speak to this, we can never say how much of these situations are personalities, right? We like to think it's a performance-based business. It's a performance-based business. But there are variables like personality compatibility. There's also who's your rabbi? How did you get hired into the organization? Who has your back? And then there's the owner. This could be a situation where the owner says something has to change. What I don't like about this is it says panic. It says panic to me because there's
they shouldn't panic.
Not
Let's
that
go
they should.
sports talk radio, baby. Let's do it. Let's do it,
Yeah,
right?
no,
I
it's
mean,
not
you're in
that they-
Buffalo.
yeah.
You're waking up this morning. You're screaming. You're throwing stuff. You're breaking more tables. Like, is it not panic when you're not in the postseason and the Broncos just beat you in your house?
I mean, it is panic in a way. I guess what I'm trying to get at is how is this going to make any? Is there some? They have the next Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick on their staff that they've just been itching to let him make the game plan. Is it really a good idea to make significant changes to the offense going into Week 11 anyway? In any scenario, I just don't know. I wonder almost if this is a reaction cease to Trevon Diggs going to social media telling his brother, they weren't doing
14
anything.
got to get out there. Or
Got to get
out
out of there.
That's what
Got to get out of there, and they weren't doing anything before you got there. I don't know. I guess I'm not saying the Bills are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. I guess you're right, Cease. They should be panicking, and it's a sign of just how far awry this season has gone. But it's the NFL. 7 more games left. So much can change. And what have we seen about these teams? Sometimes you got to walk through fire. The Bills haven't had to walk through fire the last few years, right? They haven't had to really have themselves tested. Now, sometimes when you walk through fire, you get burned. Sometimes whenever you get tested, you find out you failed the test. So the football gods are giving them a chance to rise to the occasion. And they're saying it's Ken Dorsey's fault.
It's that guy's fault. Over there. Did you get new glasses?
I did. These are Warby Parkers. Yeah, they're like green, kind of. I don't know if you can really see that in the light, but yeah,
Okay.
I got to do these self-maintenance things. I have to remember. It takes me like 6 months after I actually do these things. Eventually I do these things.
It's like the Bills, right? Like, hey, what? We're broken, huh?
Right.
Oh,
I'm
let's
firing
fix
my
something.
glasses.
You're out of here. Bloom again.
Yeah.
Sports talk radio.
Yeah.
Look at their schedule.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Look
and
at
then
their schedule.
the Jets isn't even. Yeah,
It's
they
not
still have
even
the
a winnable
Eagles,
game.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
They've
The
got,
Broncos was the winnable game.
they have no margin of error. They have no
zero.
margin of error. And it goes either way, though, because if they can rise to the occasion, if they can pull the sword from the stone and get through this gauntlet of the schedule and make the playoffs, even as a wild card on the road in week 1 of the playoffs in the wild card round, they know internally that they have the players to make a run. So I guess that's the thing, Cease. And in some ways, the way the AFC is right now, 11 teams, 500 or better. Great. Make it a 7-game, 8-week season. Let the games begin.
Joe Brady takes over as their interim OC. My only question is, are they gonna run the flipping ball? Sorry, Joe.
Well, that's the thing, right? You got Leonard Fournette, and we talked about Latavius Murray. James Cook looked a lot better when he got back on the field last night. So is that it? But I don't necessarily associate Joe Brady with balanced offensive football.
Neither do I. So the one thing you need to do, Buffalo, you need to right the ship. That was with a P, YouTube overlords. You do it running the ball.
Yeah.
How did the Broncos turn it around? They started running the ball, which leads us to our next chapter. Boy, we didn't have a lot of tight ends to talk about. Anyway, you can join in with us as part of the audience participation on this program. And it doesn't matter where you're at, because this is therapy, baby. We all need that, right? Go talk to somebody, talk to each other, talk to yourself, and we'll get it done. But you'll get it done by screaming this next portion of to the heavens. You gotta let it go. And sometimes there are players that you can't stands no more. So you all know what to do. Please join in with us as you say it with me. It's time to cue the Chuck D. Shut him down.
Love it, Cease. My favorite part of Cue the Chuck D is when I see you slap the microphone away so you don't destroy everyone's. Yeah, that's like a veteran radio guy move to know. There's times you have to just slap the microphone away because you got to let it out. You got to let it go. You got to let some of these players go. And, we're going to get into some interesting discussions here. At quarterback, there's not really anything too spicy here. I think Derek Carr going into his bye, you're going to drop him, say, for Jordan Love. Taylor Heineke may or may not have a job in 2 weeks. You're dropping him for anything, really. At running back, I didn't include him, but we probably should talk about Jaleel McLaughlin. I would imagine you'd want to carry. Well, here, Cecil, I'll give you one: Jerick McKinnon or Jaleel McLaughlin.
No, McKinnon. Jaleel,
Yeah,
it's like, it's just not happening. It
it's just
could
not gonna
happen.
happen.
He could be like a Keaton Mitchell. When that happens, pick him back up on the waiver wire. But right now,
Yeah.
shut him down. And as you saw with the game on the line, they were going to Pirine. They trust Pirine. They want Jaleel to do more. They don't trust him yet. And if you don't trust it, why are you playing it? Like, don't. Enough. So yeah, Marvin Mims, Jaleel McLaughlin, hell, even Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, already. Zach Moss is just an injury upside backup to Jonathan Taylor going into his bye. He was among the lead rushing leaders through like 6-7 weeks. Now he's back to the waiver wire. Alexander Madison. I struggle with this one, Cease. Would you rather have Madison or Ty Chandler on your roster right now?
Well, I like Ty Chandler better, but
yeah, I think so too. I think that, let's just say Madison's not an essential hold. If you have to drop Madison to get Joshua Dobbs, you have to drop Madison to get Noah Brown, you're probably doing it. Tyler Algier, another one that is just an injury upside backup. Arthur Smith, even against his own public proclamations, finally figured out that Bijan Robinson's pretty good. So you're not carrying an injury upside backup through his bye if you can help it. You mentioned Marvin Mims. He was on the field more than Jerry Jeudy. He was actually on the well, and that's valuable. I mentioned Jamison Williams in that quintet that the Lions finally had together for the first time in week 9. People said, Jamison Williams, why are you including him? Because when that speed's on the field, you have to account for it as a defensive coordinator, as a safety. It may take you out of too high safety looks, making it easier to, put you in too high safety looks, out of single high safety looks, making it easier to run the ball, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which I've heard that the Broncos want to run the ball. So it makes a lot of sense for Marvin Mims to be out there more, but not a fantasy worthy play. And even if it happens in 1 week, it probably won't happen the next week. It's just going to be frustrating. He's a true shut him down. And Christian Watson, to come out in the first the drive to open the game, 2 catches for Watson. He doesn't catch a ball for the rest of the game. He does end up with 7 targets, but I just think you're going to see a Green Bay offense that spreads it around. And Christian Watson, another guy that has just been frustrating. And again, you're easily dropping him for a Chandler, for a Noah Brown, etc. At tight end, Cade Otton was nice for a week with 2 touchdowns. He fades back into the background now, probably dropping him even for Tyler Conklin. And Taysom Hill's tough. I'm not saying drop Taysom Hill just because there's a scenario where maybe he ends up getting 10 or 15 snaps as a quarterback, in addition to catching a few balls and so on. Maybe he can continue to have some fantasy value. But if you have to drop him to get Keaton Mitchell, if you have to drop him to get Devin Singletary, maybe even the 25 to 50% guys, I probably would do it, because at this time of the year, and I think that it comes down to specific situations. Are you talking about having to pick someone up that you may have to play this week? Are you talking about you need depth at a position? We're changing our mindset as we look at our rosters, and we're really just trying to get to the playoffs and then let the football gods, the fantasy football gods, decide how it goes down from there. So Taysom Hill remains a boom bust tight end 1. I'm not forgetting the 3 good weeks he had going in to week 10, but I'm also not holding him if there's something out there that can help my team.
Allie on base says, I'm going down with the Christian.
That's okay too. And that's the flip side, right? That's the other side of the coin. That's the yin to the shut him down yang. Is emotionally, you might need to drop a player because it makes you feel better, but you also might need to keep a player because it makes you feel better.
That's right. And did you play bass when you were on crack? The band Crack. The band
was the whole
Crack.
thing.
Sorry, Joe. YouTube's like,
that
oh my God.
Whole ethos. The whole ethos was actually Jeff Wilson, the late great Jeff Wilson, was the bass player, but we would switch instruments occasionally. I think the very first song of the very first Crack show, I was on drums. So we had a lot of different things going on. But yeah, you got to hold down the bottom. The bass is extremely important. And there's, we could get into a wonderful Matt Waldman, remember, learning how to play the bass too. So if Matt knows that bottom is important, James Jamerson, I think the great Motown bassist, was one that he's studying. And I think the bass We saw a show last Monday, Cease, over at Snug Harbor. It was a South African. They have a South African cultural exchange with New Orleans, and a South African jazz band came, and the band leader was the bass player. It was fantastic. So happy, just lifted my spirits.
Yeah, it's music, man. Where words fail, music speaks. That's right. Oh, wait, speaking of more music,
Yeah,
more music, more music. Young MC, backwards is MC Young. I see I am going to rap more today.
can't help yourself.
I know. I could still do the fastest rhyme. I can still do it. I don't think I'll do it now. It's embarrassing because it's a lot. You like run out of breath when you
You
do
got
the
to do it
fastest
without
rhyme.
any billing. You got to do it without warning anybody that's coming.
Right, right.
And there's a
okay.
moment. You'll know the moment when the moment presents itself.
Okay. You'll know the moment when you just can't let the person go. God bless America. I love you too much. So that's where you have to hold on in week 11.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot here. Chances are, if you're asking, should I keep this player, you probably shouldn't. Now, a couple players I want to just urge some patience with. Marquise Brown. Okay, Marquise Brown was probably seeing a lot of AJ Terrell. The important thing is Kyler Murray looks good. Kyler Murray is just going to get better as he knocks off the rust going up against the Texans this week. I would not be surprised at all if Marquise Brown, remember, he was really hot with Kyler Murray before Murray went down last year. So I wouldn't anything too rash there. And Deontay Johnson, it's good. It's good. The Steelers finally getting the push in the running game. I think you're going to see 30, 35, 40 running back touches a game for the Steelers unless they end up down multiple scores, which probably shouldn't happen very often because of their defense. But I do think even though Deontay Johnson didn't do anything against Green Bay, we could easily see him bounce back. He's still going to be Kenny Pickett's main man. And I just don't think it's time to shut him down yet. George Pickens, on the other hand, I understand if you're ready to send Pickens to the waiver wire. Steelers didn't even announce him as a starter, Cease.
Even Ken Dorsey thinks Matt Canada is bad at his job. Hey, now that Ken Dorsey's available, I mean, would you give him a call, Pittsburgh?
Anybody?
I
just give anybody a call, but it's okay. It's okay. Mike Tomlin, I see a lot of people saying, what do we think about Mike Tomlin? There was a really good, it was Mike Golick, I think, talking about how Mike Tomlin keeps everybody on the same page. They know what to expect. They know what's expected of them. He knows how to deliver his message. He knows how to deliver his message no matter what the question is from the press, right? No matter what the game situation is. So I can't really knock it too much, even if it makes me feel sad whenever the Steelers don't have an NFL offense.
Right. Go out and pick up an instrument, everybody. Start playing,
Yeah.
because Matt was a saxophone player, right? And then he's
Yeah.
just kind of teaching himself how to play
Yeah.
bass.
Andre
Allie on bass
3000.
plays a stand-up bass, so
Yeah, that's a
legit.
sound. It's more lyrical than people think. Andre 3000 has a flute album coming out. Cease, not a rap album.
Really?
A flute album. So Andre 3000, he got the memo.
Oh yeah.
All kinds of flutes too, like 3 or 4 or 5 different kinds of flutes.
Okay. Aqualung. That's the only flute song I know.
That's great.
All right. Yeah, it is great. And
Jethro Tull.
That's right. Heavy metal artist of the year over Metallica. The very first heavy metal Grammy went to Jethro Tull, who is not heavy metal. You are not the father. What? You are not heavy metal. Anyway.
Yeah.
You're not Metal Bloom. You're like crunchy, like, I don't know. What are you? How would you describe your musical stylings?
I like it for it to be smooth and feel good. Go down smooth, no matter what it is. And happy, optimistic, soul lifting music, but just good music. But there are moments. There are moments that the aggression can be good. I may have been headbanging. At the very first Fish show I ever went to, they might have encored with Highway to Hell and Amazing Grace, and I might have headbanged along. So everybody needs to know how to headbang. One of the part of our Fish group, actually, his brother knocked someone out cold headbanging. It just didn't see. So watch safe headbanging, but headbanging nonetheless.
Yes, always got a headbang. And if you see my sister Carrie's in the chat room, hi Carrie. That picture in her avatar is her, the blonde cheerleader. That's pretty much Carrie. And then I'm the crow in the middle. And then Marlita actually didn't have a Halloween costume. She just wore like a Halloween sweater. It was lame, Marlita. Lame. Anyway, so yeah.
That's a good crow costume. That's really good.
That's when I had only had my hair grown out on the top then. And it was probably about this length. Now I'm got everything grown out. So I'm only about halfway there. So if you're mad about my hair, just prepare to get madder.
Approval ratings on your hair, Cecil. The latest polls aren't as positive as we hoped.
I know they might want to think about cutting that stuff. Anyway, I knocked a guy's shoulder out of socket at a Slayer show.
Yeah.
So mosh pit, and he came back around, and I pulled his shoulder in or out. Wait, no, knocked it out. He kept moshing, went around the circle. Carrie was there. She probably knocked his other shoulder out. Anyway, so like I grabbed his arm because I felt bad. So I grabbed his arm. It was like in Blue Streak.
Yeah.
When Martin Lawrence looks in at Dave Chappelle's like, this is gonna hurt. Crack. Pulled the arm back. He was on one, right? You said you were on drums on the first Crack show.
Yeah.
Maybe on something else. This guy was on one, so I think his shoulder popping out didn't stop him from headbanging. And isn't that the point of headbanging? Like, my shoulder's out, some old lady just stepped on me, I'm fine. I'm still moshing.
Yeah, I think it's like the mosh pit of life, you know? You just jump right back in, get back on the horse, right?
Yeah, that's it. That is correct. All right, Bloom, are we done? Is that good? We good? Enough?
Always enough. Never enough. Well,
Ah.
we'll be back tomorrow at 11 Eastern if they want more.
Yes, that's right. We will be back, and we appreciate you all. He is Sigmund Bloom, at Sigmund Bloom on Twitter. The show is at the Audible. I'm at Cecil Lammey, saying thanks, everybody. You want to help us out? 1, support the YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid, and we appreciate you. Also, check out footballguys.com. Sign up for our free daily newsletter. Every day, hot and fresh to your inbox. The top fantasy football news with takes written by Joe Bryant, Cecil Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom. A hell of a trio. That's a wrap, everyone. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?